3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. And you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter or X at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. Coming up 40 minutes from now, we'll preview the Minnesota Vikings with Alec Lewis, who's a writer for The Athletic. Danny Kanell will preview what's going to be a very busy weekend in college football with week 1 here, and that will come your way at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific today. And then Joe Valerio, former Chiefs offensive lineman, host of Believe in Chiefs, he's going to preview the Kansas City, how about those Chiefs, with us at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. I got Moist Mike. I also got Manny Rodriguez. Rocking and rolling along the other way. We take you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. So, I was on a golf simulator last night at a buddy of mine's apartment as we are golfing together on Monday of Labor Day, which is like the last vacation I'll take for a while, or planned vacation outside of like a holiday here or there. And the first half, I was able to watch the Colorado game, but I didn't have the sound on. And quite frankly, I wish I never left the golf simulator because Mark Jones was absolutely horrific on the broadcast last night. Like, just call the game, please, Mark. You know, I'm watching that last night, and it's almost like he's speaking in a voice that isn't his, and it was just all shtick and all announcing voice. And this isn't the first time I've heard Mark Jones. When he filled in on the NBA Finals a few years ago, I thought he was terrible. Last year, I think it was Colorado State, if memory serves me right. It's one of the early games that Colorado won the first year of the season. I thought he was horrible. So the broadcasting does impact the game because I'm sitting there and it was so one-sided on the broadcasting. Like the last play of the game, North Dakota State chucks up this Hail Mary, and I don't even know if Mark ever told you that it was caught. Now, it was short, and the game was over, but initially, I don't even think he realized that it was caught. So that was actually my first observation of the game last night. And I just have to say that right out of the game. If I have to listen to Mark Jones do another college football game, and he does a ton of them, right? I love Roddy Jones. And it's unfortunate that RG3 is no longer in the booth with Mark Jones, as RG3 is the best listed on that broadcast. But Roddy Jones is very good. Mark Jones, I thought, was absolutely horrendous last night. Now, when we get onto the field, I look at the Colorado performance last night. It reminds me a lot of the team last year. I thought the biggest difference from last year to this year in terms of an improvement as Colorado defeats North Dakota State by a final score of 31-26 was the run defense. I thought the run defense for Colorado was good enough last night. But when I watched the game and watched the game in its entirety, I look away and I'm not blown away by what Colorado did last night. And I said this going in, the only way Colorado was going to receive significant national praise for a team, not individuals, not just Shedeur Sanders, not just Travis Hunter, but a team, was if they blew out a very good North Dakota State team. And like for game one, where you just expect cupcake you, you knew that North Dakota State wasn't going to be a cupcake. So the only way they would receive universal praise would be if they blew out North Dakota State. But that wasn't going to happen. I loved the Bison last night. Got a little dicey at the end, and they scored a late touchdown. But I loved them at plus 10.5 points, and I thought Colorado was going to be good enough to win the game by a small margin. And that's how the game kind of played out, 31-26. But when I look back at the game last night, it reminded me a lot of what we saw last year, where a few of the players are so much better than all the other players on the field, but you don't win 6 games to get to a bowl game. Like, let's forget about a Big 12 championship. Let's forget about a national championship. Let's forget about going to a college football playoff, even with going to 12 teams. But if you have like 3 or 4 great individuals, it doesn't mean you have a great team. And that offensive line, and I asked this all throughout the offseason, they revamped it, right? They improved it. Everyone said that offensive line got better. Well, the offensive line last year was actually offensive to offensive lines in the annals of college football history. Like, that's how pathetic that offensive line was for Colorado a season ago. Now, as you enter this season, I didn't see an offensive line, and it's only one game. You don't got preseason. There's no joint practices. So let's see how they continue to develop the continuity. But I wasn't blown away by the Colorado offensive line last night. And next week, you have Nebraska, and we know Nebraska could get after the quarterback. And I walk away from that game, and I look at Colorado, and I have three thoughts. Number one, this team, it's going to be an uphill climb to get to a bowl game. You got one win down. You need 5 more. I don't think they're getting 5 more wins this season. I said that the other night. It's going to be close. I think they get to 5. Would it shock me if they get to a bowl game? No, it wouldn't. But I think they're only getting 5 wins this season. So I don't have them making a bowl game. But anyone thinking that they're getting more than 6 wins, maybe at most 7, like anyone thinking this is an 8 or 9 win football team, please tell me what you're watching. Now, I understand on the surface why we'll talk about Colorado. I understand on the surface why we'll obsess with Colorado, because let's be clear. They have 2 players on that team, in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, that without a doubt, they will be top 10 picks in the NFL draft come April of 2025. We know how much we value the quarterback position, and I hope Shedeur doesn't get killed this year behind this offensive line, which is not that much improved from the unit a year ago with my observations just in game 1. But he runs around and he makes plays. This dude's just a playmaker, and he's so smart. 26 of 34, 445 yards last night, 4 touchdowns, and the interception, you can't even hold that one against him. It was just a fortuitous play. So he has what you want in a quarterback. He's athletic. He makes the smart throws. He has a big arm, and he has command of an offense, and he generates plays. He is a playmaker. He turns garbage into gold when he's running around, even late in the game, when they're throwing the ball. It looks like he's about to get sacked. He finds a way to extend the plays with his legs, throws the ball down the field, draws a pass interference that moves the chains for a first down. So Shedeur Sanders, you take a glance you're the Giants, you're the Raiders, teams that are going to need quarterbacks picking early in the draft. Maybe the New Orleans Saints. Heck, Cowboys maybe trading up. Jerry Jones, Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime, maybe being the head coach next year. I'm kidding on the last part, but the first part I'm on. But with how we value the quarterback position, if Bo Nix is going in the first 12 picks of the draft, if J.J. McCarthy, who won a national championship, is going in the first 10 picks of the draft, Shedeur Sanders is going to find his way based off his natural ability to be a top 10 pick in this draft. And then there's Travis Hunter, who last year, early on, there was a Heisman push for Travis Hunter, and then unfortunately he got hurt. If he could stay healthy and he keeps up this production, I don't care how many games Colorado wins. I'll say this as a Heisman voter. He's going to not only get serious consideration, he stays healthy, he should be a Heisman finalist, if not winning the award. Because he's a two-way star. I have never seen a football player both ways put up 129 snaps in a game. And he missed 2. And what? It's because his helmet fell off? So he had to sit out? The motor on that kid is like nothing I've ever seen. The only thing I could compare it to, and quite frankly, I think it's more impressive because you're moving more in football, is Shohei Ohtani in baseball. Shohei Ohtani is an elite pitcher when healthy, and we know what he could do at the dish. He plays both ways. Travis Hunter doesn't take a play off. And he could be a great NFL cornerback, and I also believe he could be a great NFL wide receiver. And we'll see what the NFL does. Will they let him play both, or will they just say, okay, you could only be a wide receiver or you could only be a cornerback? But think about that. 129 snaps last night. He had 132 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He started the scoring, and then the catch at the end of the game, I watched it, 25 times or so. I still don't know how he came down with that football to secure the victory for the Colorado Buffaloes. So I look at Colorado and I say this. Shedeur Sanders, great. Travis Hunter, great. You ask me, forget about the team. Zach, who's the player in college football? You could pick one player Just doesn't matter quarterback or not. Just one player that you want to watch week in and week out, it's Travis Hunter. Like, if I can only put a camera on one player, it's Travis Hunter. He's the most entertaining player in college football. And then if you say, Zach, who's the quarterback that you want to see the most? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm excited to see Carson Beck. I'm excited to see Quinn Ewers again. I'm excited to see Dylan Raiola debut for Nebraska. Like, there's a lot of Nico Iamaleava, however you say his name, out of Tennessee. Like, there are some really interesting quarterbacks to watch this year. Jackson Dart. You keep on going on and on. Dylan Gabriel. But the guy that I want to see is Shedeur Sanders. And it's actually sometimes painful to watch Shedeur Sanders. And it's not because of anything that he fails to do. It's just, he's great. And I just fear that he's going to get hurt because he's playing behind a bad offensive line. So I look at the game last night for Colorado. I think they're very similar to the team that they were last year. I also be remiss if I didn't bring up Jimmy Horn Jr., who had 7 receptions for $198 last night and a touchdown. So they have some really damn good players that are going to be making plays on Sundays. But I'm not going to sit here today after a 5-point victory against North Dakota State, who is a very respectable program, and say, oh, now I have to change my expectations for Colorado. The only things I expect out of Colorado this year is that come April of 2025, Travis Hunter will be a top 10 pick and Shedeur Sanders will be a top 10 pick. But that team still has some issues. Offensive line is a big issue. And I don't know what Deion Sanders and company were doing last night when all they had to do was just run the ball. And maybe that means they don't trust their offensive line enough and they just want Shedeur to run around and make plays and it will end up working. But run the ball late and you don't have to get the ball back to North Dakota State with some time to go have a miraculous play down the field. So I still expect Colorado to miss a bowl game this year. I think this is a 5-win football team, but they're going to be talked about a ton because I don't know if we've ever had a football team not make a bowl game and then have 2 picks in the NFL draft that go inside the top 10. So here's the poll question today. Will Colorado get at least 6 wins and make a bowl game this season? I say no. 66.7% of you, early returns do agree with me. 33.3% say, Zach, you're crazy. Colorado is obviously going to make a bowl game this year. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, 855-212-4227. I would be remiss out of the gate if I didn't bring this up as well. We saw rumors and speculation last night that maybe Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and his brother did pass away. And it was confirmed, tragically, that Johnny and Matthew did pass away this morning when we saw a statement from the Columbus Blue Jackets and also Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL. It's a story that it's tough to even find the proper words for it because it just, when I saw it this morning, and I didn't see the speculation last night, I went to bed right after the Colorado game, and I woke up early today. I had some things going on in the morning, so I said, okay, I got to get up extra early. So I got up at like 7 a.m. I went to the gym, and I get on the elliptical and I'm perusing Twitter and I saw that at like 7:15 or so, 7:20, whenever it came out. And I was just staring at it. And you have a blank stare for 10 to 15 minutes. And even hours later, it is impossible to process it. And that's me, Zach Gelb, the talk show host, who the only way I know Johnny Hockey is watching him play hockey. It's not like I am a family member of his. It's not like I am a best friend of his. And to find out the details that he was struck, him and his brother, by a car, and the allegations of drinking and driving, and unfortunately we have to do too many shows like this where someone tragically gets killed because you have some moron get behind a wheel who was allegedly drinking and driving and then kill 2 people. By the way, today was supposed to be his sister's wedding. And both Johnny and his brother Matthew were obviously in the wedding party. My heart just breaks for his family and also for the NHL community, people that were a fan of his going back to his greatness at Boston College, Calgary, where he started his career, and recently going over to Columbus, and he leaves behind a family, right? Like, we watch these athletes and we see what they do on a football field, on a hockey rink, on a basketball court, a baseball diamond, and we marvel at them. But they're also people too. And now you have a family that has suffered the ultimate tragedy. And there's not really words that are going to make this situation better. There's nothing that you could say outside of just sending our prayers and, doing what we can. And you would think in this world, with how many times we've seen people pass away because other people make the dumbest decision that you can make by getting behind the wheel intoxicated, you would think people would learn, but clearly not. And I've shared it before. My mother, when she was younger, and she's lucky to be alive because she got hit by a drunk driver, head on by a drunk driver. And I think everyone knows, unfortunately, someone that has been impacted by this. And my mom was lucky. She survived. For Johnny Gaudreau and his brother, they did not, and they did nothing wrong. So it's impossible to find the right words for this. And your heart just obviously breaks for his family. And you think about his kids, you think about his wife, you think about his parents. And you think about his sister, who was about to get married today in Philadelphia. Just a story that it makes you just incredibly sad and absolutely sick. And, I'm a big Ranger fan. So Kevin Hayes, who played for the Rangers, he's Johnny Gaudreau's best friend. And if you know the story of Kevin Hayes, in August of 2021, his brother Jimmy passed away. And now in August of 2024, you never get over this. You never heal from this, but you have to continue to live life. But think about having to deal with your brother passing away in 2021, and now in 2024, same month, your best friend passes away. It's just a story that it almost doesn't seem real, but obviously, unfortunately, it is real. So our prayers to the family, and rest in peace to Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and also his brother, Matt. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
How we doing? It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. A lot of fun stuff going on behind the scenes. Nothing like get an email from corporate 10 minutes before you get on the air. Hey, we need some reads to be completed by the end of the business day. We got to start airing them on Monday as we're about to go into a holiday weekend. So sometimes the show continues even when we're off the air. But hey, I'm not bitching or complaining. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know what I will complain about? Maybe the biggest waste in the history of the NFL. And I have no issue with Brandon Aiyuk getting $30 million a year. I don't whatsoever. I look at Brandon Aiyuk and I said to myself that if I was in that negotiation room, I could have got this deal done in about 3 or 4 seconds. Because I said that if the Niners were offering $26 million a year originally, roughly $26 million a year, and then he said no to the Patriots who offered 32, it comes out that the Browns actually have offered more money than the Steelers, and he was willing to go to the Steelers, but clearly the Niners didn't want to trade him to the Steelers because the Steelers didn't have anything worthy of compensation for a player coming back, that this was ultimately going to end with Brandon Aiyuk winding back up with the San Francisco 49ers. And I threw it out a month ago. I said, probably going to get $29 million a year. So my mistake. I apologize. I was $1 million off. And the more and more I think this played out, it's not that the 49ers made that much better of an offer this week or made that much better of an offer yesterday. I think once the public show was on display and the Niners basically told Brandon Aiyuk, hey, you could go on out and you could go talk to all these teams. We'll negotiate trades with them. And when you didn't want to go to New England, you didn't want to go to Cleveland, and the team you were willing to go to was the Steelers, and we know that you want to come back to the 49ers, but you just wanted to pay us, there wasn't like there was that much leverage on either side. Because Brandon Aiyuk basically told you he values winning. He values being on a good team. And he wanted to stay with the San Francisco 49ers. And the San Francisco 49ers are like, yeah, we'll trade you. Oh, you want to go to Pittsburgh? Oh, wait. We're not getting a player that's worthy back. So both sides didn't have a ton of leverage. Brandon Aiyuk obviously wins because he gets $30 million a year. He stays in San Francisco. He got what he wanted as they crossed all the T's and they dotted all the I's. But also, more importantly, he barely was involved in training camp. So he missed all the monotonous preseason games and basically all of training camp outside of that day where he showed up and he had the bro hug with Kyle Shanahan, and then you had idiots, and I mean idiots, that were getting on social media, oh, what does this bro hug mean? Does this mean that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and Brandon Aiyuk have rectified the situation and that he's going to be back with the 49ers? Or does this mean that maybe they have an agreement that he's about to get traded? That's how dumb and how wasteful of our time this entire thing was. This was a giant staring game and a giant staring contest for 3 months. And sure, the Niners eventually blinked, but it's not like they didn't get what they wanted either. And the 49ers have showed you before that they're willing to get uncomfortable. They are willing to go through what is considered to be contentious relationships. But contentious relationships and contentious negotiations, quite frankly, overrated. Because if you're eventually willing to give a fair price and you have a good team, that's going to win out. We've seen this now with the 49ers before. The same damn thing happened with Deebo Samuel. And that's why for about every day but one, I anticipated and my expectation was that Brandon Aiyuk was going to be back with the San Francisco 49ers. And I will now say this take for the 3,223rd time. Brandon Aiyuk got his deal, and I've said that he was going to get his deal. And now I think a year from now, Deebo Samuel's going to get traded. I do. They're going to eventually have to pay Mr. Rock Out with your Brock Out in Brock Purdy, where he looks pretty awesome. Man, he thought I was about to say something else there, and he thought I was going to have to. He was going to have to do the Pete Bellotti dump button. That's what he thought for a second. So this is over with. Now they got to figure out Trent Williams, and we'll see if Trent Williams is going to be on the field for that Monday night game where it's the 49ers up against the Jets. We know Brandon Aiyuk will now be on the field. Now the question is, will it be Trent Williams and also Hassan Reddick for the JATS Jets? But let's be clear. Aiyuk is back. You now have Aiyuk. You have Christian McCaffrey. You got Deebo. You got Kittle. You got Purdy. That's just the offensive side of the ball. You'll eventually get Trent Williams back too. Let's be abundantly clear with the Niners. And this is no revolutionary take. Anything short of hoisting a Lombardi this year is an unmitigated disaster. They've been so close. They've been knocking on the door of getting that Lombardi trophy. Had a 10-point lead against the Chiefs the first time. Loss. 10-point lead against the Chiefs the second time. Loss. NFC Championship game against the Rams. Loss. They got to slam the door shut. There's no more excuses. You have a quarterback that you like. You got your 2 wide receivers. You got your stud running back. You got your stud tight end. You're going to get your stud left tackle, your Hall of Fame tackle coming on back. And the defense is phenomenal. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Brock Purdy, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, eventually Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, on and 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 on. You got to go win a championship. It's Super Bowl or bust. Just getting there isn't good anymore. And the NFC is getting better. Eagles are going to bounce back. Packers are damn good. Lions are damn good. You know, you go around, I think the Rams have a big season this year. The NFC is picking up ground. I don't expect much out of the Cowboys, if I'm being fair. I don't. Sorry. You know, I think the Bears are going to make the playoffs. Falcons are a solid team. But the NFC is better than where it's been in previous years. But I don't care. The Niners have a great roster. And now you don't want to be that team that just kept on getting close but oh so far. Because then that's how you get remembered, and that's not a good way to get remembered. So we'll see if the 49ers can get it done. But we appreciate you giving us content. We appreciate you wasting all of our time. But we all knew that this day was inevitable, that Brandon Aiyuk was going to get a long-term deal from the San Francisco 49ers. We preview the Minnesota Vikings next with Alec Lewis, who is a Vikings writer for The Athletic. Danny Kanell is going to join us at the top of the hour. We will preview this upcoming weekend of college football. And Joe Valerio, the former Chiefs offensive lineman, host of Believe in Chiefs, going to stop by at the top of the 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific hour as we'll preview the Kansas City Chiefs. Standing by with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash is El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, unthinkably tragic news out of New Jersey. Blue Jackets winger Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew killed when a car hit them while they were riding their bicycles. Brothers natives of New Jersey were set to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding today in Philadelphia. Johnny played 11 seasons in the NHL, was an all-star in 2023. Matthew played at Boston College like his brother and for various minor league teams as well. Now, the driver of the vehicle, 43-year-old Sean Higgins, suspected of being under the influence of alcohol. He has been charged with 2 counts of death by auto. Chiefs want to have Marquise Hollywood Brown for their opener against the Ravens. Continues to work his way back from a dislocated shoulder. Mike McDaniel led the Dolphins to back-to-back playoff appearances in his first 2 years in Miami. Good enough to reportedly land a 3-year extension. Giants reportedly talking with veteran corner Adoree Jackson. That on a return. 16th ranked Oklahoma home for Temple tonight. Sooners head coach Brent Venables feels good about his club heading to week 1.
Putting together a roster, recruiting, all the work that our players and coaches have put in regards to development and getting ready, prepared for the season. There's a lot that goes into it.
Pacers guard T.J. McConnell reportedly agrees to a 4-year extension at $45 million. Meanwhile, for baseball, the Brewers have now taken a 5-4 lead on the Reds in the 10th, game 1 of 2. I'm Marco Belletti.
855-212-4227. That's the number to get in touch with us, the Infinity Sports Network. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football season is right around the corner.
Holding himself, runs to the left, he's to the 5, Lamar's in, touchdown Ravens! They're going to have a championship game in Baltimore because the Hayes of the Barn!
Will it be your team's year to hoist the Lombardi?
In the shotgun, Mahomes. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown! It's caught! Hardman caught the ball! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won! The entire bench empties! Chasing Mahomes in the end zone. Their third Super Bowl in 5 years.
We preview all 32 teams right here on the Zach Gelb Show. The Minnesota Vikings.
All righty, we'll preview the Minnesota Vikings right now with Alec Lewis, who does a great job covering the Vikings for The Athletic, and Alec Lewis is kind enough to join us right now. Alec, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good, Zach. I appreciate you having me. I'm sorry getting me on here was like I'm not that popular, so I don't know why. For me, it took a couple tries for us to do this, but when like yesterday, a guy like Justin Jefferson says is available, I think you kind of need to do that. So no, good to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and we love Justin Jefferson on this show. We had him on the day after he got drafted, and he said he was going to be better than all the other receivers, and those teams that passed up on him were going to pay. So what was the big takeaway? Because when you look at the Vikings, you start with their best player. That's Justin Jefferson. In your chat with Justin Jefferson, what were some things that you kind of took away from that yesterday?
Yeah, well, I mean, he is not a guy who is ever really down or ever really I think he always feels kind of like the underdog, and he always feels like nationally maybe he doesn't get the credit he deserves and his team doesn't. And so there was a vibe of motivation with him, a vibe of kind of like nobody believes in us, but we don't really care. We believe what we have internally. I think every NFL team and locker room probably has to say that and feel that way. So it's nothing crazy, but I genuinely do think that he feels like they could surprise some people with the offensive weapons they have, specifically a guy like Aaron Jones, who could come in and help the run game. And then defensively, what Brian Flores is able to do always is typically bother opposing offenses and offensive coordinators, but they have kind of a revamped talent group on that side. And I was going through it this morning, and I kind of am with Justin that nationally, I'm not sure if people are maybe have paid enough attention to what Brian Flores might be able to do with this defense and a personnel that fits him more than last year's did.
You know, it's fascinating because I don't think anyone nationally doubts Justin Jefferson. He's viewed as either the best wide receiver at worst, the third best wide receiver in football, however you want to order up Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and then himself. But the team this year, I don't know what to expect because we start with the quarterback, and I know it's more than just the quarterback, but I saw Sam Darnold in New York, and don't get me wrong, the Jets ruined a lot of quarterbacks, but I also didn't see Sam Darnold, with what he could control, provide me enough tangible moments to maybe say, okay, he's got a chance to be really good. Kind of give me the feel around Sam Darnold as a lot of times this offseason, a lot of people are saying they expect him to have a good year this season for the Vikings.
Yeah, at The Athletic, we have a guy named Austin Mock who did like these projections pretty recently, and they had us react to them, and the Vikings were projected around 6.8 wins, which is right around a lot of the odds makers and where they have it. And they asked for my reaction. My reaction's like, yeah, I mean, I could understand why you'd be more positive than that 6.8 number, and I could see why you'd be more pessimistic. And a lot of the reason comes back to the guy you just mentioned. This is a quarterback league. Sam Darnold has been around for a long time. You're exactly right. And that part of the reason the Vikings even signed him in the first place was because they felt like they could maximize what he has from a talent perspective with a coaching staff and an environment that sets guys up for success around a skill group that they felt like was the best that Justin had ever been around besides San Francisco last year. And so I hear that. I understand that. I watch him in practice, and there are times where he makes throws and you're like, holy cow, there can't be a ton of guys who could do that. Then there are other times where you watch him in practice and he's scrambling to his left and he's throwing into double coverage and you're like, what are you doing? He can't be doing that. So it is, yeah, this team and Sam Darnold in this situation, there is such uncertainty to where, people come to me for knowing and for answers, and it's like, I got to be honest, I don't know how this is going to turn out, which is why it's such kind of an interesting experiment to me, and why I think I'm going to be so juiced flying to New York next weekend for Week 1 against the Giants, because it is just like a slate that I have no idea what is going to be drawn or sculpted on it come the season started.
Alec Lewis here with us. Does a great job covering the Vikings for The Athletic. I'm just wondering, with McCarthy now being out for the year and Kirk Cousins getting to Atlanta and his replacement getting drafted with the 8th overall pick, if both sides could have a do-over and if they knew what was going to happen with, McCarthy getting hurt, do you think they would have just found a way, both sides, to get Kirk a deal done with the Vikings this past offseason?
Man, what a good question. I think from the Vikings perspective, from the time that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah became the GM in 2022 and the time that Kevin O'Connell became the head coach in 2022, I think they saw the idea of having a young quarterback that they could develop and what that would provide their entire roster building structure. And they had always kind of wanted to make that happen. And so to draft JJ, and although he got hurt, to see him do what he did from the time that he entered the building to the time he got hurt, I think gave them a lot of confidence that path that they had envisioned from the get-go it was the right one, and it remains the right one, even with the injury. I think even had he not gotten hurt, I think the hope would have been that Sam Darnold starts as long as possible throughout this season. From Kirk's perspective, I'm sure there's a little bit of him that's like, you know what, I had a great environment. The locker room had surrounded him in a way that it hadn't in the early parts of his time here. The coaching staff had believed in him in a way that they had not in the early part of his time in Minnesota. So I'm sure there's some of that. But it's interesting. I think both sides from a roster building monetary perspective kind of knew the path that it was probably going to go. And there were times in the past where the Vikings could have committed longer to Kirk. They did not do it. There were times where Kirk could have probably taken shorter term deals for less money, and he did not do it. So ultimately, I think each side kind of played the cards that they played, knowing that it's never going to be a foolproof avenue, whichever route you take.
Yeah, neither side would admit it. I would imagine the Vikings would still operate the way that they did. I think Kirk absolutely would have made sure that he stayed with the Minnesota Vikings, because I think there's a legitimate chance a year from now. I know people go, in Atlanta, have him play for 2 years and then get rid of him 2 years from now. He may want to leave there after 1 year because they know that Michael Penix Jr. is standing right behind him.
It's interesting. I covered Kirk for 2 years and got pretty close with him and people around him. So I've kept in touch. And I think, we'll see what happens. And obviously the move that they made and that blindsiding him made him feel a certain way, and the people around him feel a certain way. But I do think, having talked to people around him recently, there is like a really there's a good amount of optimism with how he feels about that situation, with the skill players, specifically Bijan, Drake London, even a guy Darnell Mooney. I would kind of center on that name maybe as this season progresses. So, I'm as interested to see how that situation plays out, given their schedule and their division, which is miles easier than what the Vikings have to face this year, which probably also factored into Kirk's decision.
Alec Lewis here with us. You touched on the defense. We know Brian Flores is a good coach in this league. I know we saw all the nonsense with Tua that played out, probably some of him being in the right, some of him being in the wrong. That got rehashed a week ago. We know that there's the lawsuit with the NFL. Do you think there's a road for Flores to be a head coach again, or is it just going to be him a defensive coordinator as long as he wants to be in the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough road. I mean, from the lawsuit, which is specific, it's its own entity and its own situation, I think it was always going to face an uphill battle from that standpoint. And then to have Tua come out as blatantly as he did, and I think his quote was saying that Brian Flores is a terrible person. It's pretty harsh. And I've thought a lot about it, and I've talked to Brian a lot about just the arc of his career. I mean, it's like a lot of the coaches who grew up in New England. You watch things done a certain way, and you watch success happen in the way that it happened in New England, and you probably feel like that approach is the one that's going to lead to success. So, it'll be interesting. I do think Brian Flores is a smart enough guy to realize how you need to grow in this era of coaching with this environment and how kind of kids react and operate in this day and age. And I think, to your exact point, he is a damn good defensive coach. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He had success in Miami. He had success last year with the talent what he did with the talent the Vikings had defensively last year was not talked about enough. And then this year, I would say even from a cornerback perspective, even with what they have in the interior defensive line, there are holes. And I believe that he will have a great amount of success with the talent that they have because of the coach he is. So we'll see. If he's a defensive coordinator forever, he's going to be a dang good one, I think, because of his ability to coach these guys, to adapt, to get guys to play fast. Kind of just what he does.
Alec Lewis here with us. I think the answer is no. I know he was 13-4 his first year, then lost his quarterback, was 7-10. Is the coach O'Connell, is he on the hot seat entering this year, or is it, hey, there's really nothing that could happen where he wouldn't be back the following season as head coach?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you could say that with Kevin O'Connell. I mean, look, I mentioned the odds and the win totals and what people think. In my opinion, if it's 8 or more wins, then it's a pretty props to them for the job that they did. And I also think, given Kevin O'Connell was the driver of the process to land J.J. McCarthy. I mean, obviously, the GM is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He selects the players, but just knowing kind of the process that they put together to go scout every quarterback that they did and spend the time that they did with each quarterback, that was Kevin O'Connell driven. And the way J.J. McCarthy looked and developed from the spring to the fall, and the belief that I think everybody around town, everybody internally feels about what he can provide years from now, it'd be hard for me to think that you would be talking so much from an ownership level about development, organizational future, and then all of a sudden move off the head coach that kind of charted that future. That to me would be probably bad process practice from an ownership level, which happens in this league. But I think Kevin is okay.
Obviously, they have enough talent around JJ. I know he's out for the year, but if he was healthy, why wouldn't they have just started him week one? They have enough talent on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's solely an approach and a perspective of like long-term development is not ever something that in the NFL is prioritized, but that was the path they wanted to take. They felt like the more time a guy could learn the system, feel comfortable, the more time he could watch another quarterback, go through the game plan, go through film watching, learn what the ins and outs of all of that, the better off they'd be in the long run. And they would cite, I mean, the staff would cite the Patrick Mahomes example behind Alex Smith, the Jordan Love example behind Aaron Rodgers. And obviously I'm picking two players who have had an immense amount of success recently, but I gave them credit for it because I think this is a league and really a society where patience just does not really exist, where everything is geared toward the short term. But when you're drafting a quarterback, this is a long-term investment. So why would you not maximize it as much as possible and give it time to breathe? I mean, JJ's still only 21 years old. And so it was an approach that totally made sense to me, just given, I think, just the guys that have had success and not. It's like I watched Drake May the other night, and I hear people like, why is he not starting Jacoby Brissett? And I'm thinking, the guy's young. Like, I don't think people realize the amount that you have to learn from a scheme perspective of your own system and then a defensive concept perspective of the defenses you're facing. It is a heavy lift. And so while I know we all want to see these guys as immediate as possible, I think it's often what maybe contributes to some of these guys failing.
He's Alec Lewis, does a great job covering the Vikings for The Athletic. Make sure you read him. Alec, thanks so much for doing this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Zach. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we got to do it. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend.
You too. Right back at you. There he is, Alec Lewis. Great stuff. We go from him to Danny Kanell next as we get you set for a busy weekend. The first true weekend of college football.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will now be joined by Danny Kanell. Make sure you check out BetOnline for updated college football playoff win totals, conference Heisman, and college football week 1 lines. College football is back. We got week 1. Enough with that week 0 nonsense. My alma mater, Temple, plays tonight, and they're a 42-point underdog to Oklahoma. Oh, boy. That's going to be 68-0 written all over it. Like Matt Rule used to be there when I was there as a student. College game day, they beat the snot out of Penn State. Like, they had big American Athletic Conference championship. Now we're predicted last in the American Athletic Conference. So, Danny Kanell, you may have thought last week sucked for you with Florida State losing. It won't be as bad as it will be for me tonight.
Yeah, that could be a painful one, Zach. I feel for you. Thankfully, I've never had to live through a run like that with Florida State. We've had some rough years, but like not where you're a 42-point dog, which I would probably say Lamb with Oklahoma. They got Jackson Arnold, young quarterback, making his debut. But remember when Temple was like the time, I think was it Al Golden who like really kind of put them on the map, and then it became like this job that was really like a good job. Matt Rule took it, parlayed it into the job at Baylor. Like, it was a good spot. I don't know what's happening there, man. I feel for you.
Rod Carey is my least favorite person of all time. He ended up taking that job and just totally ruined the program. But, like, let's be real. I could get worked up over it. The little guy doesn't really have a spot in college football now anymore with name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal. Like when I was there, they developed Hassan Reddick from a walk-on to a top 15 pick. And now it's just like, okay, you develop a player, he's going to get just taken away, the year he starts to be good in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I've talked to a lot of Group of Five coaches who just feel helpless, hopeless, like what are we supposed to do? And really all they want is some sort of system that tries to slow it down, because I think they understand, like, basically, Zach, what we're developing into organically, and I thought this for a couple years now, is essentially minor league NFL. And in minor league baseball, what do we have? Single A, double A, triple A. And then you got the big leagues, right? So let's say the big leagues is the NFL. Let's say the AAA is SEC Big 10. Double A is ACC and Big 12. Single A is all those Group of Five schools. Well, I played minor league baseball. You know what happens? Sometimes they draft a kid first round, they stick him in AAA, and they're like, uh-oh, he's not ready for it. And he gets sent down. And we see players sent down, so to speak, to the Group of Five level. There's a quarterback, TJ Finley, who's starting for Western Kentucky against Alabama. He was at Auburn. He was at he was in the SEC and didn't cut it, so he gets sent down. Then on the flip side, what do you see? Players starting single A, they get called up, and sometimes they make the jump just to double A. And what's crazy, Zach, is we're actually seeing players jump 3 times in a career, sometimes 4, and they're just kind of working their way up. The system is figuring itself out. Where does this player belong? And then they end up playing where they are. But the coaches that I talk to, I think they want some sort of compensation, some sort of consolation prize for the fact that they developed those players. Like they did, and they do a lot of work, and they find a lot of talent. I think that's where they feel burned the most. So like we see with coaches getting bought out of contracts, maybe there's some sort of pay that you get to bring a player from their roster into your school, an extra scholarship, something to make them feel like they don't just get rated, because we've seen that happen too. And it's not fair. It stinks for those lower tier programs. And yet I think even the coaches understand the opportunity that's there to make money and play at a bigger school. A lot of those coaches would do the same thing if the opportunity was there. So they understand it. They just want some sort of fairness where they're given something in return for the player they developed.
Danny Kanell here with us. We know with the 12-team playoff, you could afford to lose a Week 1 game. But with what you saw from Florida State, where is your concern level moving on the rest of the season, knowing what the standard is? It's to be one of the 12 teams in the playoff at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about the 12-team playoff right now for Florida State. I don't even think Mike Norvell, the coach at Florida State, is thinking about that. He's thinking, oh my gosh, we got a lot of issues we got to correct. And that's all you can do in his position. The thing that was most startling to me was the offensive line and the defensive line, the lines of scrimmage, where Florida State is more talented. They've got more 4- and 5-star talent, more expected NFL talent. And they got worked. They got pushed around. They could not establish the run game outside of that first drive. So that was my first, uh-oh. Then the second thing, and I do think Mike Norvell, he's talked a little bit about this after the game, he needs to do a better job. There was a lot of missed assignments from the linebackers on defense that kind of were out of position, got gashed. I think he also needs to call a more aggressive game. I think he was a little bit conservative with DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback that came in to transfer. And I think he's going to have to open it up, because the one adjustment Georgia Tech made after that first drive where Florida State marched down the field, they were like, we're not going to let that happen again. So we're going to load up the box. We're going to make sure that, go ahead, go try to beat us, DJ. And they, instead of trying to take some shots, they just kept trying to run the ball. And it was like into a brick wall, because they were outnumbered up there in the box. So I think Mike Norvell will make some of those adjustments. I think you'll see DJ given the opportunity to throw the ball down the field. Now, we'll see if he capitalizes on it and if he can take advantage of it, which he did in the fourth quarter when they had to. But that's what I expect from Florida State. And I think they'll get better.
Yeah, it was alarming. It was almost like they didn't trust him in week one for like the first 3 quarters when I was watching him.
Yeah, I thought that too. But see, here's the thing. So I wanted Cam Ward, who's the starting quarterback for Miami.
Sure.
Like, if anything burns Florida State fans, it's going to hurt, especially if he plays as good as I think he can play. But DJU was sort of this game manager, which I know is used as a pejorative and it's a negative term, but it does give you stability. Like, he played okay. He played well enough to win. Like, he didn't make the big mistake. And I think that's what happens with some young quarterbacks. And that's what they have behind DJU. Players that might make a big mistake, pick 6, boneheaded interceptions. DJ played within the system and he did what they asked him to do. That's what I thought you would get from him. And early in the season, I thought that would be enough. That's where I was wrong. And I do think that's where Mike Norvell was wrong, because I thought the defense would be able to dominate early while the offense builds up some confidence. That's not the way it's going to work. They're going to have to open things up. And to your point, I do think I don't know if it was trust or let's not put DJ in a tough spot early. Let's wait and give him some confidence, give him some easy throws, give him some good games. They're not going to have that luxury now from what we saw. Boston College has a pretty dynamic quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, who almost beat them last year. They're going to get challenged. Florida State's going to have to step up, but we'll see how they respond. But I do think, to your point, it did look like they didn't trust him, but I think that was kind of part of the game plan as well.
Talking to Danny Kanell, when you get to Colorado last night, you could go positive, you could go negative. If you only had one takeaway from the game, what's your takeaway?
They are fun to watch. I mean, it's like, and because I think there's a lot of people that hate them, a lot of people that love them, and a lot that just, like me, that just want to sit back and be entertained. And every time they take the field, they are entertaining, right? Like that game, I thought that game would be entertaining. So I was asking people, like, do you feel better or worse about Colorado? And I would have to say I feel the same, because what we saw was basically a carryover from last year. I knew Shedeur Sanders was going to play well. He did all last season. I knew Travis Hunter, who I still think is the best pure football player in the country. The dude is unbelievable, playing both sides of the ball, being one of the best receivers in the country. I think he's one of the best defensive backs too. But like, how is the offensive line? Still very much a question mark, as Shedeur took some sacks. How is the defense? Still very much a concern, because it didn't look much better than it did last year. So kind of like what we were talking about with Florida State, were those adjustable? Like, can they make the adjustments? Yeah, I think they can be better coached. There were some position things where they were out of position. There was some wide open North Dakota State receivers running open. And is there room for improvement? I would say yes. But like coming in, their win total was 5.5. It wasn't one of my favorite plays. I might have leaned over because I think their roster is better this season. But it looked very similar to what we saw last year, like playing down to the competition. I probably feel the same. Like, I think a bowl, which is 6 wins, would be probably a good season considering the talent on this team and the schedule, which is going to get a lot harder.
Let me be clear, Danny Kanell. I want them to make a bowl game because I think it's good for college football. But I think they're going to be a 5-win team and just miss out on being a bowl team and just miss bowl eligibility. But we know Travis Hunter is going to be a top 10 pick. We know Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 10 pick. It's kind of crazy that you could have 2 top 10 picks in the NFL draft and you may not even make a bowl game this year.
It is, but in the greatest team sport we know, it kind of shows you how hard it is to win with just a couple guys. Like in the NBA, college basketball, you get a couple ballers, you can win the whole thing, right? Like, it's just, with only 5 players in the field, you play both ways. In this sport, like, if you don't have an offensive line, Shedeur's going to be running for his life. And it's only going to get worse because the talent that they're facing, and I think Nebraska next week is going to be a real challenge for them, that's going to get that more challenging. The offensive lines they play are going to be better and more challenging. But to me, it speaks more about how hard it is to build a roster. And the way Deion is doing it is through this, the first year he took the job, we knew there were going to be like 45, 50 new players, which is expected. That happens a lot with new coaches. I didn't expect it to happen again, but that's what he did. Like, he churned it over again. And I think that's a big challenge too. And that's why I think, look at the guys who played well. They were the players that were there last year. Jimmy Horn Jr. was there last year. He lit it up through the receiving. Travis Hunter was there last year. Shador was there last year. Shiloh Sanders played pretty well, though there's some cheap shots, but he played pretty well. Like the players that struggled, the ones that were out of positions are the ones that are still trying to figure out the system. So instead of trying to develop players, it seems Deion's trying to go out and just simply upgrade. And that is a big challenge. And it's something that's never been done before with a lot of success. And yet he's trying to do it.
I just wonder this too. When Shador goes to the NFL and Travis go to the NFL as well, Travis Hunter, how much longer do you think Deion's actually going to stay at Colorado, in your opinion?
So you want my wildest, boldest prediction?
Sure, go ahead. I'll never say no to that.
And I think it's been said. So I said this a while ago, and I'm mad because I think they might have even done it on First Take the other day. I mean, Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, is there a hotter coach with a hotter seat underneath him? Dak Prescott, is there a quarterback like the more pressure to win right away? Jerry Jones, is there an owner that's more willing to do something brash and brazen and say, I don't care if this coach has never coached in the NFL? Coach Prime goes to Dallas. They draft Shador, and he coaches his son in Dallas next year.
That would be something.
It's crazy and it's wild. And yet I think Jerry Jones is just nuts enough to try it because he loves his guys. And we know the history that Deion had in Dallas.
And also, Jerry doesn't care about winning anymore. Jerry just creates about stirring up the most drama.
Exactly. He really does. And that when you talk about selling tickets and being the center of conversation, my goodness, I think it would be crazy. But I think Jerry's crazy enough to do it. And there's probably about a 1% chance that this all could come to fruition. But I do, to your point, I think Deion would stick around for one. Like, I think he'd be there one more year. And then I think he'd realize how hard it is. And I don't know if he would be around longer after that. You know, that's kind of my prediction. One more year after his sons leave. He's done a great job with them. I just think it's for somebody who's won as much as he has. I think it'd be really hard. And like you were talking about 5 and 7, they're not. If they lose Shador, which they're going to, and Travis Hunter,
they're gonna be worse.
Good luck replacing them. They're going to be worse. And then it's like, that's hard on somebody who's won as much as he has.
All right, a few more quick hitters here with Danny Kanell getting into the games this weekend. I'm fascinated to see what Clemson does. I obviously expect Georgia to win, but we know Clemson is still a good program, but they're far away from their days of being elite because Dabo just doesn't adjust to what college football is now. What do you think we see out of Clemson up against Georgia?
So, man, this is a awesome experiment because Dabo is bucking the trend, as you mentioned. He's like, I don't like this transfer portal era, and I'm going to try to win with my guys. I mean, imagine at the start of NFL free agency, whenever that came around 30, 40 years ago, it was before our time.
Yeah.
Imagine a coach being like, I don't like I don't like free agents. I just like the draft. Like, that's all I want to use is the draft. That's essentially what Dabo is doing. The thing that kind of makes it unique is when you draft, there's a certain amount of players you can take. You're kind of limited. Recruiting, you can go out and get whoever you want, whoever you can get to come to your school. He has really talented players on his roster. He's got a lot of 4 and 5 stars on his roster. The issue is some of them are younger because you can't go out and get you don't go to the portal and get a veteran with experience. Depth becomes an issue because if you lose a starter, then you might be starting a freshman instead of a transfer portal guy who comes in. So I like Dabo a lot. I think he's a great coach. I like the things that he stands for. I do think he cares about his players like he says he does. I do think he cares about education like he says he does. I just think he's being a little bit too stubborn. And you don't have to be Colorado and get 45 new players. Ohio State, I think they only have 11 new players, but there's really 3 that we've talked about. It's Quinshon Judkins, it's Will Howard, and it's Caleb Downs. And there's a couple other guys that are pretty big names, but if you're Clemson, you have money, you have resources. You could go get an offensive lineman, which they could use. They could go get another wide receiver, which they could use, and they could go get a linebacker, which they could use. And it wouldn't disrupt the culture of the locker room. It wouldn't turn guys against them. You know what it would do? It would make Clemson that much better of a team. So, but this experiment we're seeing unfold before us is, how does it work? It kind of looks like it's going downhill, and it looks like they're not as dominant. But if they go toe-to-toe with Georgia, I think Dabo can say to a lot of his critics, see, I don't need all those guys. I got my guys, and trust me.
He would love to say it.
If they win,
oh, it's going to be insufferable.
Absolutely hear it. These are my guys.
Oh.
We don't need anybody else. And if they lose, but it's by a field goal, I think you'll hear it after the season when the critics come back. He'll say, remember that game against Georgia? We were close. But yeah, if they win, guaranteed he goes in on all his critics.
Does Miami beat Florida?
I actually like Florida at home. I like Miami this season. I like them to compete. I like them to win the ACC. I had Florida State. I would maybe switch it because of what we saw, but I'm not giving up on that totally. But I think the one thing I've learned and the one thing I keep reminding myself, as good as this roster is in the transfer portal era, it does take time for continuity, chemistry, timing, rhythm, things that matter in the sport. It takes time to develop that. Florida has a lot more guys returning. Miami has a lot of guys that are coming in that are uber talented, but they haven't played together yet. And this is one of the toughest environments in the country to go in at the Swamp. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I really like the under because I think it'll be a defensive, sort of affair. I think both teams want to establish the run. I would take the points, but I don't hate Florida to win either. Like, I think Florida could win the game outright. And then I think Miami would be okay. Like, I think they could still get better and find that rhythm and find that timing. And Cam Ward could be one of the most electric players in the country. But I kind of like the Gators at home at the Swamp.
Danny Kanell, who do you think's more likely to lose this weekend? Is it James Franklin's Penn State team going to West Virginia, or is it Marcus Freeman having to go up against Texas A&M?
More likely to lose. I mean, the point spread's tighter, so I would, Notre Dame is kind of easier. More pressure, I think, is clearly James Franklin. It's around 8.5, 9 points. With a perception of West Virginia, I'm curious to see what his new offense looks like with a new offensive coordinator. They brought in Andy Colton-Nicki from Kansas. I think Notre Dame's going to have a tougher time. Like, I think Notre Dame's going to lose. I like Texas A&M, lay the 2.5, lay the 3, wherever it is right now. Their offensive line is really young and inexperienced, and they have to go in. We were talking about Florida Field, the Swamp. Kyle Field's one of the toughest places to play as well. You got Mike Elko, the head coach at Texas A&M. I think he knows Riley Leonard, the quarterback at Notre Dame. I think he knows his tendencies. Haven't seen him on his own team at Duke in practice every day. But the one thing I do think that would make me give Notre Dame some hope, their defense will travel. Like, this is a defensive team that can provide some problems on the road for Texas A&M's offense. So I lean underdogs and I lean unders on the totals in general. That's kind of my philosophy going into this weekend. That's the one that I'm like, I think I like a home favorite because I think the Aggies are going to have the edge, and I really like Mike Elko.
Check out BetOnline for updated college football playoff, win totals, conference, Heisman, and college football week 1 lines. He is Danny Kanell. Before we let you run, I'm going Georgia against Alabama in the national championship game, with Georgia defeating Alabama 27-17. What's your natty pick?
Oh, I don't have a score, but I'll give you the matchup. So I have Oregon.
Love it.
With Dan Lanning facing his old mentor, his old boss, Kirby Smart, and the Georgia Bulldogs. But I have Oregon winning it all. There's just something about, I love the fact we had a new player last year in Michigan. Oregon feels like they're on the cusp of knocking down the door. They've been close. They've been getting closer. Dylan Gabriel, I think, is going to pick up right where Bo Nix left off, and their defense has been more physical. They have a ton of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to say, and it's kind of crazy because I was watching some film of Ohio State. They are stacked, but they do. Oregon plays Ohio State at home. So I'm going to go Oregon over the Georgia Bulldogs.
He is Danny Kanell. Danny, I could talk to you for about 50 more minutes, but my producers would be dragging me out of the studio.
The season's here, baby. I love it. I could talk it all day too.
There he is. Danny Kanell always does a great job, whether it's for Sirius or also CBS Sports HQ, and also here with us today once again on behalf of our friends at BetOnline. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout, but before we do so, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INFSportsNet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. The biggest pro football contests in Vegas are back. Circa Survivor and Circa Million. are now up to $16 million in guaranteed prizes. You have 2 ways to win and no rake. Circa Survivor contestants select 1 team each week with no point spread. If the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated, and you can only pick each team once in a season. Last the longest to win it all with $10 million guaranteed. In Circa Million, make 5 picks against the spread each week for your share of $6 million guaranteed. Quarterly and full season payouts. The entry that does the worst wins $100,000. You must register at a Circa Sportsbook in Nevada, Las Vegas, Henderson, or Sparks, Reno. And we did the show live from Circa last week, and it was absolutely sensational. And man, that Stadium Swim outdoor sportsbook at the pool was a thing of beauty. Entries are now open, and they close September 7th at 2 p.m. Visit circasports.com for rules and details. Must be 21 and present in Nevada to enter. Paid for by our friends at Circa Sports.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
Man, things are happening. Well, they're always happening on the Zach Gelb Show, of course. But football is really back. Like last week was a nice appetizer. We all like a good pig in the blanket. Sometimes it's the best part of the meal. And you had a crazy game last week with Florida State, Georgia Tech. But just getting a little more food on the plate last night with Colorado and North Dakota State. And then tomorrow is the big week 1 slate. I placed my Chick-fil-A order, by the way. So I got a nugget tray to bring over to the Marash residence, as this is now, I think this is our 4th straight Labor Day. Yeah, I had to start 2021. And this is now the 4th straight Labor Day weekend, the first college football Saturday, true Saturday, where we get together. And you got the Bayou Bear, who originally was bailing earlier in the week. He sent the text like he has to go upstate with his family. And then he said, the weather's going to be crappy, so he's just going to stay on Long Island. I thought that was a bluff. I really did. But he usually smokes something like, I'm not talking about, well, he could be smoking that too, but I'm talking about meats. Manny looked at me and was like, that just doesn't sound right. And then Mraz always orders the wings, gets a bunch of burgers, hot dogs, sausages. Yeah, I made sure to get to the gym this morning. That's what I'm saying. Because tomorrow your boy's going to be doing a lot of eating, a lot of betting, a lot of drinking, a lot of eating, a lot of betting, a lot of drinking. What is it like? Rinse. What's the saying with the 3 things? You have no clues. Rinse, something, repeat.
Like the recycling, reduce, reuse, recycle?
That's what I used for a student council campaign one year. Like rinse, wash, what is it? Hold on. Now I got to.
Wash, rinse, repeat?
Yeah. Wash, rinse, repeat. Tomorrow, it's gamble, it's eat, and then, drink many cervezas. We can work on the slogan there. That wasn't my finest radio moment. So gearing up to tomorrow. But, man, the slate's loaded. Clemson, Georgia, Penn State, West Virginia. Manny, did your sister or brother go to Penn State? Because you're wearing a Penn State shirt. My eyes are now blinded by that just disgusting white color.
Well, all right. Relax there.
Shiny
40-point underdog. Relax there. All right.
Okay. Temple sucks.
Yeah.
I know that. Don't beat down on the little guy just because you're insecure.
Well, you were the one. What do you want me to do? Would you want me to just take the punches?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm going to defend myself. What type of malarkey is this?
So how are you a Penn State fan?
Yeah, my brother went to school there, class of 2015. So, that's how I've become assimilated with the Penn State culture.
Gotcha. So you got Penn State, West Virginia. I love their AD, by the way, Pat Kraft. But come on. James Franklin. Yikes.
Go Lions.
James Franklin. Yikes. Then you got Miami, Florida, which I think Miami, Florida is going to be a game where Miami wins, but it's going to be, even when you win, you're going to feel wrong. I truly do believe that. I think that's going to be an ugly game where I think Florida's lining up for either a game-tying or game-winning field goal, and it's going to go off the upright and be no good. So I am going to go with Cam Ward and Miami to win that game. Notre Dame, Texas A&M at night, and then coming up on Sunday, you got USC and LSU. Big game there with Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly. So looking forward to the slate tomorrow. An NFL news item for you. We talked about in this offseason was Tua Tagovailoa going to get paid. We know the answer to that. He already got paid, and he got paid big-time money. Jeff Darlington had this report that Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel has signed a new contract that extends him through the 2028 season. A source said under McDaniel, the Dolphins had a top-ranked offense in the NFL in 2023, the first time since 94. They also had their first back-to-back playoff appearances in 23 years. And he's told McDaniels has an especially strong working relationship with GM Chris Greer, CEO Tom Garfinkel, and cap guru Brandon Shore. And it's the type of cohesive group that owner Stephen Ross covets. Here's the thing with Miami. They got a good roster. There's not many rosters that are better than Miami. There are rosters better than Miami. I'm talking about the Dolphins, not the U. But you got a good quarterback, not a good quarterback. You got arguably the best wide receiver in the sport in Tyreek Hill. You got a second great complimentary piece right there in Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert, really damn good. Devon Achane, really damn good. The offensive line's a question mark. Can Tua win a big game? Question mark. Defensively, I like the pieces that they have, but they're guys that are really damn good that are coming off injuries. You play in a loaded AFC. You play in a loaded AFC East outside of the Patriots. The Patriots stink. But you take a look at the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins. All three of those teams, you could argue, could win the AFC East, and I can't say that you're crazy. But I look at Miami, and when you pay the quarterback, you get the deal done with Tyreek, you get a deal done with Jalen Waddle, you have a good team on paper, now you extend your coach. Just making the playoffs isn't good enough. This is a team now that has to win a playoff game. Because if not, then where are you heading towards? Just being a good team and then stuck on a good team and you never actually win squat? Like, you look at the 49ers. I know they haven't won a Super Bowl. But if you take the 49ers and the Cowboys, right, those two teams, I think the Dolphins are trying to build their team like the 49ers. Now, they got to get better on the offensive line. But I do believe the Dolphins are closer to the Cowboys than they are to the 49ers. Where the 49ers have been an elite team in the NFC. I know it hasn't resulted in a championship yet, but at least they've been to 2 Super Bowls. At least they've been in conference championship games. The Cowboys, they're lucky to get to divisional weekend. Lucky. And most weekends, most years, they're in and they're out after wild card weekend. And I look at the Dolphins, I think there's a legitimate chance this year that they miss the playoffs. And it's not because they suck. It's not because they're bad. They're a good football team. But the AFC, you look in their division, I like the Jets better, slightly, and I like the Bills better. You look at the AFC North, all 4 of those teams, even though I'm down on the Steelers, all 4 of those teams are playoff-worthy, playoff-caliber teams. The AFC South has 3 really damn good teams. The Jaguars, even with injuries last year, the Colts losing their quarterback, right? Both are on the verge of making the playoffs. The Texans had a huge season a year ago. The Chiefs are the standard. The standard is the standard. Kansas City is the standard. And the Chargers should be improved. So I look at the Dolphins, and yes, in one breath I say, you got to go win a playoff game this year. But if they don't win a playoff game this year, are there going to be really any big changes? Quarterback just got paid. Coach just got extended. Tyreek Hill ain't going anywhere. So I'm going to be curious if the Dolphins don't reach a playoff victory this year, or if they're doing what I predict them to be, like 9-8, 10-7, and miss the playoffs, who are we going to blame the most? And I still think the fair, logical answer is, hey, it's a product of the conference. It's a product of the division being really damn good. But this is going to be on the shoulders of Tua Tagovailoa. I really do believe that nationally, Tua will be the piñata if the Miami Dolphins don't win a playoff game this year. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief next. First up, though, with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Now, Zach, the tragic news from the NHL. Blue Jackets winger Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew killed after they were struck by a car while riding their bicycles in New Jersey. Johnny played 11 seasons in the NHL. Matthew also played for various minor league hockey teams as well. Natives of New Jersey were set to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding set for today in Philadelphia. Driver of the car, Sean Higgins, suspected of being under the influence of alcohol and has been charged with 2 counts of death by auto. From the NFL, Dolphins reportedly agreed to a 3-year extension with head coach Mike McDaniel. He's led the Miami to the playoffs each of his first 2 seasons in charge. Chiefs won't have Marquise Hollywood Brown for their opener against the Ravens. Continues to work his way back from a dislocated shoulder suffered in the preseason. Chargers agreeing to a 4-year extension, $22 million, that with kicker Cameron Dicker. Pitt running back Rodney Hammond Jr. declared ineligible. He led the team in rushing last year at 564 yards. NBA Pacers guard T.J. McConnell reportedly agrees to a 4-year extension, $45 million, tying him to Indiana for 5 years at $54 million overall. Baseball, 1 game is done. The Brewers outlast the Reds 5-4-10. That's game 1 of 2. And a tough loss for the Royals, losing Vinny Pasquantino for the rest of the regular season with a broken thumb. I'm Marco Belletti.
855-212-4227. That's the number to get in touch with us, the Infinity Sports Network. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It's time to update you with some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty. How about them Cowboys? Come on, Manny, say it with me. You look
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
One more time.
Yeah! How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
I thought you were a Giants fan.
I know. I don't feel well right now. It's good to make fun of them, though, because, I mean, that bite. Oh, thank you, Jimmy.
Can you do me a favor real quickly?
I'll give it a shot. Sure. What you need?
Could we get a camera shot of you by any chance? Can we get you on the screen for YouTube? I just want to see your beautiful face. I want to see your mug. I want to see that ugly Penn State shirt that you're wearing.
That
All
was
right?
unnecessary.
We're zoomed in on you. Can I get one more time? How about them Cowboys?
Are you going to clip this?
No, I'm just hold on. Don't, before you say anything, I'm just doing this for, fun, a good environment around here. Let's hear it.
How about them Cowboys?
All righty, we're good. Samter, can I get that on my Slack, please? Because Manny, he's all over the place with football. One day he shows up here with the Bills hat on. The next day he shows up here with the Giants hat on.
What are you trying to say?
I have no clue who you actually root for. And I don't think it was just for a fashion statement.
No, I wear hats for fashion. What are
you wearing today?
It's a beer sponsor.
Oh.
Yeah, a little Coors Banquet.
Okay.
Delicious.
Nice job. A sponsor. Who's paying you?
Not a soul.
All righty, but let's get to Jerry Jones and his approach to the Dak Prescott contract situation.
When you look at a situation, you've also got to weigh, okay, what are the consequences of the other side of the coin? And so the Dak's situation right now, for me, from my mirror, has more to do with our situation than it does with the merits of Dak Prescott being quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
So if I had to translate that, Manny, and I think I've become an expert in translating Jerry Jones.
Good, because I'm still learning.
I would say that's him saying it's because of the Cowboys' financial situation, more so than their lack of belief in Dak Prescott as an actual quarterback. Is that how you kind of gathered that after I explained it to you that well? Like, do you need to hear the clip again after I just explained it that way?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so I just gave you my explanation. That's what I think. That's what I gather. That's what I infer from after hearing the audio clip. Now, I just told you that. You listen up to Jerry Jones one more time.
When you look at a situation, you've also got to weigh, okay, what are the consequences of the other side of the coin? And so Dak's situation right now, for me, from my mirror, has more to do with our situation than it does with the merits of Dak Prescott being quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, it's just such a tough situation for the Cowboys in a hard cap sport. You give all this money away. Now you're in a situation where you need to give your quarterback, however you may feel about Dak Prescott.
$60 million.
That's a lot of money. I don't know if I'm going to be willing to give him all that money, but I mean, that's what I'm getting out of Jerry Jones. We are forking up a lot of money right now that we just can't afford to get anything done with Dak, which is kind of a bit of a crazy statement considering he's your franchise quarterback as well.
Why? Here is why Jerry, or Jera, is silly. Here's why. You had a chance to give him that long-term deal before free agency started. They trimmed some of the cap hit this year, renegotiating the deal from I think $60 million down to $55 million down. They could have given him a long-term deal and then allocated those dollars how they seem fit. I know you still have to pay the money, but you could spread it out favorably like a lot of teams do. So once you didn't get the deal done then, before the start of free agency, it doesn't make any sense to get the deal done now. And quite frankly, if I'm Dak, I know I'm getting paid. I'm good with it because I control my future. And even if the Cowboys aren't going to pay you, even if you get hurt like you did last time, someone will find a way to give you the dinero. Here is Dak Prescott and Jerry saying it's more about their cap situation.
What do you take from that when he says, it's not really about what you're doing?
Yeah, I understand that. That's the business and the nature of this game that we play. I stopped, honestly, listening to things that he says to the media a long time ago. So it doesn't really hold weight with me.
See? I try to tell people this. Dak is knowing and cognizant of what's going on. Dak knows that Jerry just says a bunch of inane things to the media. And I think he is immune to the hype around the Cowboys, even though he's a part of it. Because the last time he went through these contract negotiations, they went on and on and on and on. And if you thought he would have lost leverage after he got hurt, he didn't. He eventually got the deal. So I think that what people lose sight of this, it's, why haven't the Cowboys paid Dak yet? There's reasons for that. But Dak controls what happens. If he wants to stay in Dallas, I think they'll get a deal done. However, he has a no-tag clause. If he wants to hit free agency, that could happen too. Quite frankly, Dak, even though you could play better, you deserve better. Because Jerry Jones does not care about winning anymore. Jerry Jones just cares about drama, 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 drama. And guess what? More drama. Let's go to Mike Tannenbaum. He was on Get Up on the ESPN. He said trade CeeDee Lamb to move up in the draft to draft Shedeur Sanders. Do the Shedeur Sanders. Huh. All right,
let's say Dallas is 15, 18, somewhere in the draft order. Greeny, trade multiple first-round picks and maybe CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb?
Hey,
try to get CeeDee Lamb out of town.
If you're starting over, yes, CeeDee Lamb is expendable. I mean, there's a better chance.
CeeDee Lamb is expendable.
Yes, there's a better chance, in my opinion, that Shedeur Sanders could be the quarterback there next year than Dak Prescott at this point.
I don't agree with that.
If Dak wanted to be there, their deal would have been done.
Hot take, hot take, hot take. Hot take alert, hot take alert, hot take alert. Mike Tannenbaum probably hanging out with Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Like, what are we doing there? It's one thing to predict that Shedeur Sanders will be the next coach or the next quarterback of the Cowboys. That's one thing. To say that they're going to give up 2 first-round picks and CeeDee Lamb. All right, you want to see 2 first-round picks? We could talk. Why would you give up CeeDee Lamb? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Well, I know people are going to say, the Bears got DJ Moore and the Panthers move up number 1 overall pick. That's nonsense from Mike Tannenbaum. And I could think Shedeur could be the next quarterback of the Cowboys. You can't, though, say right now there's a better chance that Shedeur's going to be the quarterback of the Cowboys over Dak Prescott. That's a hot take. Scorching hot by Mike Tannenbaum. So we're going to play a cut from Stephen A. Smith. I didn't know we were going to play a cut from Stephen A. Smith. I'm just going down the sheet. When I heard Mike Tannenbaum, remember when Stephen A. Smith was talking about Lamar Odom? And he was like, he was on crack!
Oh, yeah.
That's what I kind of thought when I heard Mike Tannenbaum. Like, was he on crack? I was just wondering. Here is Stephen A., though, on the Pittsburgh Steelers on First Take on the ESPN.
And when we're talking about it, I think Mike Tomlin would appreciate this because, after all, he is the one that coined the phrase, the standard is the standard. Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers once had a standard. That standard has dissipated. And the reality is that collectively they haven't lived up to the standard that Mike Tomlin inherited.
And Stephen A. Smith is a big fan of Mike Tomlin. But he's right. They've won a playoff game since 2016. And I've said this before, and every time I say this, some website that's associated with Steelers fans, they write about it, and then I get all these nasty DMs. Oh, they hurt my feelings. I don't know how to live with these DMs. But the Steelers standard has been dead for a while. We used to go into seasons looking at the Steelers say, Super Bowl contender. Now we go, if you could close your eyes enough, you could maybe see this team winning a playoff game. They're just a fine football team. They're not great anymore. Here is Patrick Mahomes, NBC Sports with Chris Sims. Oh, I like this. He talked about having Taylor Swift around. Listen up.
I think it's been cool to see the girls and the women that have really embraced watching football. And I know being a girl dad, how cool it is for me. And then meeting Taylor and realize how genuine and cool she is. I mean, I think that's been special to me because, I mean, she's, like you said, the most famous person in the world. She could not be. And she's really interested in football. And she asks a lot of great questions. She's already drawn up plays, so we might have to put one in.
Oh, gosh, that's amazing. That's awesome. Do you think Manny Taylor Swift is actually drawing up plays?
Yeah, I can absolutely see her in the locker room just absolutely drawing up plays like we used to back when we were playing football, just kind of using the football, kind of just using your index finger. Okay, you're going to run a post route. You're going to run that way. I think that's what Taylor Swift is doing in the locker room.
Here's what I'll say. If one team could hire Taylor Swift to run plays and get away with it, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. But here's a bigger take. Who would be in charge of allowing, I'll give you a simple question. Who would be in charge of allowing Taylor Swift to actually draw up the plays and utilize them in a game?
Travis. I think Travis holds that.
No, it's so easy. Andy Reid, the coach.
Oh, the mustache guy.
Yes. The guy that looks like a big Kool-Aid man. Is this kind of like Sopranos, where Adriana was in the car with Tony? Is this maybe Andy trying to rub elbows with Taylor Swift a little bit, and then you have Christopher getting his girl potentially stolen? All just are out there. Is Big Red onto something? Is there a locker room problem in Kansas City?
You're thinking Big Red has the opportunity.
Has the hots.
You think
Taylor Swift.
Oh, wow.
Has the hots. Taylor Swift. Who could blame him?
Hey, you know what? If there's anything that can ruin the Chiefs' potential for winning another Super Bowl, it'd be that.
Like if Taylor Swift wanted to host a segment on this show, she's more than welcome. This is Andy Reid. Hey, you want to call plays? You're more than welcome. No, I don't think. I think that was tongue-in-cheek by Patrick Mahomes. I don't think she's actually calling plays. And this entire last 3 minutes was tongue-in-cheek. I know someone will send me a message. Oh, why are you accusing Andy Reid of trying to steal Travis Kelce's girl? What kind of animal are you? I'm not an animal. Well, sometimes I'm an animal. But right now, I'm not an animal. I'm just having fun on a radio show. And finally, here is Deion Sanders on the great play of Travis Hunter.
Travis is so explosive. We called it. We said that, you playing against some guys it's a pretty tough matchup for anybody. But then when you bailing and you let him catch it and face you up, that's the problem. And he did what he does. Travis is a phenomenal player.
Yeah, no crap. 129 snaps, played both ways. Is the football version of Shohei Ohtani. Had 132 receiving yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and then was a dog on the defensive side of the ball as well. Corner, wide receiver, he can play both in the NFL. Who knows? He's unbelievable. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football season is right around the corner.
Holding himself, runs to the left, he's to the 5, Lamar's in, touchdown Ravens! They're going to have a championship game in Baltimore because the Hayes of the Barn!
Will it be your team's year to hoist the Lombardi?
In the shotgun, Mahomes. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown! It's caught! Hardman caught the ball! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won! The entire bench empties! Chasing Mahomes in the end zone. Their third Super Bowl in 5 years.
We preview all 32 teams right here on the Zach Gelb Show. The Kansas City Chiefs.
We'll talk about the Chiefs in just a second. But Samter did bring in Munchkins today. And I'm going to have a hot take here. I think Munchkins are better than donuts. Manny, you agree or disagree?
Listen, I don't discriminate. I really love both of them. You put me in a tough position right here. I think I'm going to go with the donuts, though, because just because they're bigger.
Okay. Well, my next guest, I'm very intrigued by his answer. He's Joe Valerio, the former Chiefs offensive lineman. So he is a former offensive lineman. That means he knows food. He also went to college at Penn, so that means he knows cheesesteaks, and he played for the Chiefs, so that means he knows barbecue. So before we preview anything about the Chiefs, I got to ask Joe about some food. Are you more of a donut or a munchkin guy, Joe?
How are you guys? This is a great one. I got to say, I'm more of a munchkin guy because they're like donut vitamins. You know, you just pop them in, and you don't even have to think about it, right? When you eat a donut, you're thinking, oh man, did I really need that donut? Munchkins, I think they have negative calories because they're so small that when you eat them, you use more calories chewing them than you do. That's at least a lineman's mentality for thinking about them.
And I think you could maybe get that approved by someone at Penn as well. You know, I think they could verify that.
I think so. We'll have to take it to the biology department and see what they think. No, it's great to be
when you were in Philly, what was your favorite cheesesteak? Just wondering all those years ago.
Well, on Penn's campus, there was a place called Abner's. They had, at the time when I was there, it was the same owners that owned Jim's on South Street, which is kind of nationally famous. A lot of people will go to Jim's. Same owners. So you got the same, pretty much the same cheesesteak, except that Abner's on Penn's campus, they had crisp cut fries that you could, they would serve cheese whiz over. So man, you talk about 2:00 in the morning, when you're a college kid and, you go in for a cheesesteak and some cheese fries. Holy cow. That was pretty tasty, but yeah, Jim's, Abner's, and then of course everybody, in Philly will tell you to go to D'Alessandro's is another one. John's.
Yeah.
Mama's
in Ballackinwood is one of my favorites.
Oh my God, the 4-cheese cheesesteak.
Oh my God! Let me tell you, Joe. When I was a student at Temple University, and I know the owners of D'Alessandro's, I love D'Alessandro's, but my friends and I, we would get into legitimate fights, and I was the largest kid in my Jewish fraternity, so I would win those fights, and I would tell them about Mama's. And Mama's is the most underrated cheesesteak, and I say this all the time. It's for big dogs only because that is a lot of meat and cheese on a bun.
Yeah, you did. If you left there hungry, it was your fault because you didn't eat your cheesesteak because they were fantastic. I worked close to Bala, and a good friend of mine turned me on to those. And I'm telling you, I love a good Mama's. And my daughter's going to be working in Bala, so I told her, listen, we're off to Mama's someday. I'll come up and meet you for lunch, and I'm going to take you to Mama's. You're going to have one of their 4 or 5 cheesesteaks, and you're going to love it.
Oh, that's great. Okay, one more food question, and I promise we'll preview the Chiefs with Joe Valerio. When we get to Kansas City barbecue, I have been to Kansas City now twice. One place is my favorite, so I'm curious, what's your favorite BBQ joint there?
At this point, I know it's not old school. It's relatively new school, but Q39 has got such a great variety, and it's very, it's a little more bougie than some of the, barbecue joints that, I frequented when I was playing for the Chiefs back in the 90s. We'd go to Arthur Bryant's, Gates, Jack Stack, which was, kind of a little more upscale. But yeah, those are the places that I will go. Look, if you want good fast food, barbecue, there's nothing like Gates. Like, it's really good fast food. It's kind of like, how a lot of people don't really think of Chick-fil-A as fast food. It's kind of the Chick-fil-A of that world. But man, I love Gates, Q39, Jack Stack. I've got to get to some of the newer ones that weren't around when I was there, like Joe's and some of the other ones. They were definitely newer than from my playing days.
Yeah, no, I think we did lunch at Q39 when we were there as a network. But my favorite was Jack Stack's. The baked beans were phenomenal. The Fire Kiss wings were great. And, I want to say they had like a jalapeno cornbread.
Yeah. Jack Stack is what my wife had flown out for. I want to say it was either my 35th or my 40th birthday. It might have been my 40th. My wife, Jennifer, had Jack Stack's kind of dry iced and sent out just to get us a little taste of home back in Philadelphia.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Joe Valerio here with us. This could be my favorite start to an interview ever because we just talked about food. Former Chiefs offensive lineman, host of Believe in Chiefs across the Believe podcast network. Okay, so we go into this season with Kansas City. I know it's been a storyline the last few years since Tyreek Hill has left the organization. Who's going to help Mahomes out and it not be Travis Kelce, obviously. Like, who else is going to step up? It hasn't mattered the last few years because they still have gone on to win back-to-back Super Bowls. But how do you kind of evaluate the wide receiver room heading into this season?
Well, I mean, they obviously, Brett Veach and Andy put together a wide receiver room that makes sense for Patrick, right? I mean, I think he has all the tools now. He's got somebody they can throw. Well, obviously when he's back, obviously Hollywood Brown. They've got some back shoulder guys. They've got some guys who can run. You've got Justin Watson, Penn, of course. I got to talk about Justin. Possession receiver, solid, great leader in the locker room. I mean, I think they've got a very diverse group of receivers that are going to be able to make Andy have a pretty wide open playbook this year, which is what he always wants, right? He wants to try to be creative each and every year, make that playbook as thick as it can be, and I think he's got the wide receiver room this year to do that. He's been able to create some vertical stretch, horizontal stretch across the field, spread some defenses out, and then, if Isaiah Pacheco continues to do what he's doing, it's going to make, take a lot of pressure off of Patrick to to always have to find a receiver and make sure that he's utilizing that running game as well when he gets to make his calls at the line about whether it's a great defense to run against or a great defense to pass against. So I know it's a long answer to a short question, but I think it's a great wide receiver room. It's diverse, and I think it has all the tools in the toolbox for Patrick to find success. Now they just got to keep him healthy, get Marquise Brown back, and make sure Rashee Rice is on the field now. Which I keep hearing that things are going to get pushed off from his civil case till the summertime. So the Chiefs could be sort of in a fortunate situation there for the season.
Joe Valerio here with us right now as your preview of the Chiefs. At this stage of Mahomes' career, we all know who he's chasing. He's chasing the great Tom Brady. Brady beat him in an AFC Championship game and a Super Bowl. He already has 3 rings, Mahomes, and we know Brady has 7. When you go into this year, is there anything you want to see differently out of Mahomes? Because we know what the standard is for Kansas City, and it feels like the season doesn't even start for them like what happened for the Patriots for 20 years, which was, okay, you're going to be playing in the AFC Championship game. The question is, do you just get to the Super Bowl and win it again?
Yeah, I think, like every quarterback, what he has not to do is take the team on his shoulders, right? I mean, that's the worst thing that could happen is if he starts to feel the pressure that he has to be the sole reason why they make it there. I think that's part of the reason why Tom Brady had success is I don't think he ever felt that. Bill Belichick had put together some phenomenal defenses, always built a supporting cast around Tom, and I think that's what will be the secret sauce to Patrick's success is not feeling the pressure of having to win the game with the whole team on his back, which I think some other quarterbacks have had to do. I think to a certain degree that's happened to Josh Allen. I think it happens to Lamar Jackson every year, which may not this year given the fact that, they've got Derrick Henry, which is scary. But then I think about Joe Burrow and some of the pressure that he puts on himself because when you are the guy at the quarterback position and you don't have a championship defense, you don't have a running game that you can take a deep breath behind, I think it starts to affect QBs and the way they play. That was, I think, the success last year. The Chiefs last year, to kind of dovetail a little bit of an answer into that question, the Chiefs last year were the epitome or the cliche of offenses win games, defenses win championships.
Absolutely.
That defense won them that championship. Listen, Patrick, Travis, what they did on offense, I'm telling you, when you really break it all down, it was the defense that won them that Super Bowl.
And I texted Steve Spagnuolo, who I know well, 3 or 4 weeks into the season, and I go, no one's going to talk about your defense, but your defense looks awesome. And then I thought it was neat. I was in the locker room after the AFC Championship victory over Baltimore, and I asked Mahomes about the defense, and he said, this year I really learned how to manage the game. And I know it's easy for Mahomes to say when you're the best quarterback in the league and you're the best playmaker in the league, but if we ever said about any other quarterback they're a game manager, it's like a slap in the face. But there he was embracing, hey, we know the defense is playing at a championship level. Let's just not mess it up and let's just manage the game. And I think it speaks to Mahomes. He's willing to do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick's maturing, right? He's getting to the point where he realizes that there's, 21 other players that will be supporting him, 11 starters on defense and 10 others on offense besides himself. And he's also got, 15 or 20 special teams rotation guys that are going to be out there. And I think he's really maturing into that leadership role that says, you know what, I'm not going to be the guy that absolutely has to win the games. And the defense that they've put together, it's some of the most athletic linebackers you'll see. I was really anxious and eager to see what happened with L'Jarius Sneed leaving. I think they've done a great job of shoring up the corners and the safeties, and I think you're going to, re-signing Chris Jones obviously was huge, pun intended. And I just think I think the defense is really going to have to shine and continue to shine to keep opposing offenses off the field and allow Patrick to have the most flexibility and, kind of leeway to do what he needs to do. And if they try to get a little creative and it doesn't work, the defense will be there to sort of shore things up and get the ball back. So I think that gives Patrick the kind of freedom and latitude to be creative. It gives Andy, like I said, not overuse the term, but it gives them a big playbook. And it's really, the Chiefs right now are a team effort. People are a little worried about their special teams at the beginning of the preseason, but my God, the preseason, what a debacle that has become. They shored up some things. You know, Coach Taub is a fantastic special teams coach, and that's going to be an important part of the Chiefs' success as well that sometimes gets overlooked.
Let me ask you this, and I know, Joe Valerio, it's kind of like, who's your favorite child? So that's always a difficult one to answer. We know Mahomes is the most valuable player for the Chiefs, but if you had to pick the next most valuable player, is it Kelsey or is it Chris Jones when you look at the success of this team?
That's a really great question because, you know, obviously opposing sides of the ball, two different kinds of positions. You know, Chris Jones lives a little bit in anonymity. And when you play defensive line, you know, even when you are the marquee player, right, you do so many things in those, let's call it 60 to 70 defensive plays that you're out there for, right? You're just getting beat up. He's getting triple teamed. He's getting quadruple teamed. He's getting chipped on by tight ends, linebacker, or running backs coming out of the backfield. Like, all kinds of stuff going on. So, I mean, look, as a lineman, I'd have to say, you know, as much as Travis can be a game changer, you got to kind of tip the hat to a Chris Jones who, you know, he's kind of the heart of that defense. And without him living a little bit in anonymity, because, you know, yes, he gets his sacks and he gets his tackles for losses, but what he does in that, what we used to call the closet of the defensive front, because it's a small little area, I'd have to say that might give a little bit more of an edge from an quote MVP perspective, because look, we all know what Travis can do and what a game changer is. It's I don't want to say it's apples and oranges, but if I had to say something, I'd say if Travis misses a few weeks and Chris Jones misses a few key weeks, I think the team would do a little worse if Chris wasn't in there, to be honest.
I agree with you. All right, before we let you run, Joe Valerio, it could be AFC, NFC, doesn't matter. Who do you think is the biggest challenger to take away the crown from Kansas City?
I'd have to say at this point right now, with September upon us, I'd have to say on paper it's got to be the Ravens.
Wow.
I think the addition of Derrick Henry is what scares me the most, because it's going to be put up or shut up time, for Lamar Jackson to see whether he can take them to the next step. Look, I know everybody wants to talk about the Bills and the Bengals, in the AFC because of Josh and Joe, but those guys don't play Patrick Mahomes, right? Like it's not like the Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes go out and wrestle at the 50-yard line and whoever wins that Super match wins the game. Like the thing that scares me the most is what Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, if they both stay healthy and they get a good game plan for those two, the damage that they can do to a defense, it's going to keep a Patrick Mahomes off the field. That's why I fear it more than I do the Bengals or the Bills or some of the other teams that a lot of people are probably thinking about. It's if Derrick Henry gets rolling, Lamar Jackson can make him fit into his offensive schema, then all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is getting 45 snaps, 50 snaps, as opposed to getting 60, 75 plays a game, and that would be devastating for the Chiefs. So that's why I kind of see that as the biggest threat.
I need you to be honest with me, and I love the way that this conversation started with all the food. When you were at Penn, was Rich Friedenberg a good guy, or was he a pain in the ass, your kicker?
Rich Friedenberg was one of my best friends. We still communicate and stay in touch together. I was a long snapper, short snapper. We were the battery, right, with our holder, Doug Hench, our quarterback, and Rich was my guy. I love Rich. He's a great guy, and he was a great teammate, and he's a great friend.
Yeah, I know Rich very well. He just actually texted me, and he told me that you were his long snapper when he was at Penn. I was his kid's camp counselor, and then I worked with him at a sleepaway camp for a bunch of years. Rich, a great dude. I saw him a few weeks ago.
Oh, well if you see him before I do and I get a chance to talk to him, please tell him I said hello. He is fantastic and, one of the best teammates you'll ever have, and he was not your typical kicker. Let me tell you that.
I can only imagine.
You know what I mean? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, I will smack him across his bald head for you next time I see him. He is Joe Valerio. Joe, this is great. Appreciate it. Make sure you check him out. Host of Believe in Chiefs across the Believe podcast network. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Zach. Have a great one. Enjoy the season, my friend.
You got it. Right back at you. There he is, Joe Valerio on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. How about that? I got a text from my buddy Rich who kicked that pen. He goes, Joe was my long snapper. So that was pretty damn cool. I didn't think we were going to start that conversation with the munchkins and the donuts. He gave the best answer I've ever heard on that. And then he liked mamas. And then he mentioned the Kansas City barbecue. His football analysis could have sucked. I didn't care after that. It was really good. It was good football analysis. Don't get me wrong. But once you butter me up with all the food talk, geez Louise. Oh, we could have just ended the conversation right there. Good stuff with Joe. Interesting answer, by the way, that the Ravens are the biggest challenger to the Kansas City Chiefs in trying to take away their throne. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, can Lamar win the big game? Can Lamar win the big game? Can Lamar win the big game? And we know that they had a home game last year in the AFC Championship game and weren't able to do that. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. Marcus Freeman, James Franklin, both face a ton of pressure in week one. Who's under more pressure, though? We'll discuss next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
We'll update you on the poll question, which you could always find at Zach Gelb at INF Sportsnet. Will Colorado get at least 6 wins and make a bowl game this season? My answer is no. I think they get 5. But with that being said, I think they'll have 2 top 10 picks in the draft. Travis Hunter, easily going in the top 10. Shedeur Sanders is easily going to go in the top 10 as well. Updated poll results on that. No is still leading the way at 68.3%. Yes at 31.7%. I look at Colorado. Here's what I'll say. Shedeur was great. Travis Hunter, great. Horn, great. The offensive line, we were told it was improved. I didn't think it was improved enough. Now it's only 1 game. Nebraska's a huge test for them. They beat Nebraska last year. I think Nebraska's improved this year, and they actually have a quarterback right now. See, this is real degenerate of me. I haven't looked at a week 2 spread yet because we haven't even got through week 1. But I don't even think I care what the number is right now. I would lay it with Nebraska if Nebraska is the favorite. So here we go. It's off the board. It's off the board because I guess Nebraska plays tomorrow and Colorado just played. Let me see if I could find this real quickly. Nah, it's not coming up. But on ESPN, the matchup predictor, according to ESPN Analytics, Colorado has a 51.2% chance to win that game. Nebraska has 48.8%. I always love how they come up with those numbers, and I always wonder how they do come up with those numbers. Let me see if I could get just a quick spread here on Nebraska-Colorado spread, because that's an early week 2 bet. Hold on, I think I found something. Oh, wow. Nebraska-Colorado next week, Manny. Just entertain me here. Who do you think's the favorite? Game's in Lincoln. Saturday night in Lincoln, Nebraska. Colorado, who beat Nebraska last year. What do you think who do you think is the favorite?
You're setting it up to be for Nebraska to be the favorite.
Nebraska is the favorite. How many points do you think they're a favorite?
All right, well, they're getting 3 already because they're in Lincoln, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I will guesstimate. I'll do 6.5.
7. Damn, that's a big spread. That's a big spread. So it's going to be interesting to see. I got a wedding next weekend, too. Saturday, I tweeted this back in July that I can't wait to see Dylan Raiola against Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, he looks like, doesn't he look like Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, he does. He looks just like Patrick Mahomes. And his father is a legend at Nebraska. His uncle is on the offensive line coach. He's an offensive line coach there.
Yeah, I remember you being all excited about him.
Yeah, no, I'm rooting for Nebraska. You know, Coach Prime, I love you, but I am rooting for Nebraska in that game. So, jeez, though. 7 points, that's a big spread. I went from, I'll lay the number on whatever. I was here like 3.5, 4.
Show me something, Gelb.
I'll lay the number. Screw it. As Lee Corso once said when he was changing headgear on the ESPN, bleep it.
I got the dump on ready.
I wasn't. F it. I could say that. Alrighty. So going into this season, even though I like to drag Penn State a lot. And Manny wearing a Penn State shirt today, I thought that was very trolling by him. I think Penn State's going to the college football playoff. I think they'll be one of the 12 teams. I think the third best team in the Big Ten as we enter this season. However, this week 1 game, I can't wait to see how it plays out. Because you take a glance at West Virginia. First off, they're home. Secondly, James Franklin doesn't win big games. This is considered a big game. Outside of Ohio State, that schedule for Penn State is not really all that great this year. Garrett Green is a really good quarterback, mobile, big quarterback. You got 2 great running backs in White and Donaldson. And I like Neil Brown, who went from, Neil Brown's a guy that's easy to root for. He was the guy that everyone last year, if you look at, Dennis Dodd or whoever does hot seat rankings, no doubt about it, Neil Brown was number 1 on that list last year. Everyone just assumed it was like death taxes and Neil Brown getting fired. And then he goes and wins 9 games at West Virginia. So I think that's a tough spot for Penn State to open up the season. They're a 7.5-point favorite. But you have Notre Dame, who is actually a 3-point dog on the road at College Station at Kyle Field, going up against the Aggies of A&M. And Notre Dame, I think, is not as good as what they were last year, but I expect Notre Dame to get to the college football playoff. But for Marcus Freeman and James Franklin, there's no excuses this year. Notre Dame, this 12-team playoff is designed for you to get in. Penn State, with what you've done with James Franklin, which is just be good and not great, this is made for you to get in the college football playoff. And I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't think Marcus Freeman is an excuse guy. We know James Franklin is an excuse guy. Oh, we didn't sit in the first row of class. Oh, maybe it was the PSI level of the footballs. There's always excuses. Excuse after excuse after excuse with James Franklin. But if you say to me, Zach, who has the better chance of getting embarrassed in week 1 and losing? Just losing, because that would be embarrassing for them in week 1, even though their opponents are respectable. But, hey, Penn State, Notre Dame both expect to be the college football playoff. You should be able to go win a game on the road. I would say it's more likely that Notre Dame loses to A&M than it is Penn State loses to West Virginia. I think both are alive, but I think the Nittany Lions will just survive against West Virginia. And Notre Dame, man, A&M, they're a 3-point favorite. That spread scares me because I feel like it's begging you and it's just screaming at you, hey, plus the points with Notre Dame. It's 20 versus 7. Elko, I know he was their DC, but now he's their head coach. And is Riley, I'm curious to see what Riley Leonard is. So I'm a little bit of Duke. I want to see what he's like now at Notre Dame. So if I had to say there's one upset more likely than the other, it's A&M beating Notre Dame, even though A&M is technically a favorite, but it's viewed as an upset because it's a 7 up against a 20 compared to Penn State going up against West Virginia. But, hey, you go to a 12-team format, you got to make the playoff. If you're Marcus Freeman, you got to make the playoff for James Franklin. James Franklin should get fired if he doesn't make the playoff. I think Marcus Freeman will get another year. It just depends how embarrassing they are if they don't make the playoffs. But that Notre Dame schedule, you got some tough teams on there. A&M to open up the season. I know Florida State lost, but you got Florida State on November 9th. I know it's not like a murderer's row schedule, but USC at the end of the season, that's always a good competitive game. You look at the Penn State schedule, outside of these first 2 games, West Virginia, and then at the, I think it's midway through the year, November, 2nd, 12th against Ohio State, November 2nd. It's not like they have these crazy games. Yeah, they play USC. Wisconsin's going to be improved, but there's no Michigan on that schedule this year. There's no Oregon on that schedule this year inside the Big Ten, so I don't want to hear any excuses out of Penn State. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I got a good college football weekend coming up. And I'll tell you last night, I know all we did was talk Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Colorado. And I know that Utah against Southern Utah is not going to generate a lot of national discourse. It was very good to see the, 13th year player, Cam Rising, who I love, return and go 10 of 15 for 254 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also had 4 carries for 25 yards. And, do we know who got in the game last night? And anyone have an idea who got into the game for Utah? It's a New York connection. New York, Utah, Manny. Any hints? Who do you think got in the game for the Utah Utes in a blowout?
New York connection with Utah? The only one that I can think off the top of my head is Donovan Mitchell, which is obviously not the correct answer.
Football related.
Yeah, which is obviously not the correct answer.
New York, Utah.
Oh,
good-looking mother.
Could it perhaps have been the former quarterback of the New York Jets?
Yes. Well, Zach Wilson didn't play, but his brother Isaac Wilson is at Utah. How do you think he did last night when he came off the bench?
0 for 3.
Now, I didn't watch this part of the game. I saw a little bit of Cam Rising early. He was 7 of 11 for 74 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions.
All right. Hey, Zach, you might want to learn a thing or two from your little bro.
Well, you never know. Well, what? Hit up your mother's friends? Is that what you said?
Yes.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout when we come on back. Manny's got some questions for me. I got some answers. We'll get to onside, offside on the other side. But first up with the latest Infinity Sports Network update, here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Zach, sports world still mourning the loss of Blue Jackets winger Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew as they were both killed after being struck by a vehicle while on their bicycles. Brothers, natives of New Jersey, were set to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding set to take place today in Philadelphia. The driver of the car, Sean Higgins, a 43-year-old suspected of being under the influence of alcohol, has been charged with 2 counts of death by auto, being held in jail till at least Thursday. Dolphins still looking for their first playoff victory since Dan Marino was their quarterback in '99, but coming off back-to-back playoff appearances under Mike McDaniel in his first 2 years, and now reportedly rewarded McDaniel with a 3-year extension. Chargers agree to a 4-year extension, $22 million, that with kicker Cameron Dicker. Chiefs won't have Marquise Hollywood Brown for their opener against the Ravens. Continues to work his way back from a dislocated shoulder suffered in their first preseason game. College football, Pitt running back Rodney Hammond Jr. declared ineligible. He led the team in rushing last year with 564 yards. NBA Pacers guard T.J. McConnell reportedly agrees to a 4-year extension, $45 million. It ties him to Indiana for 5 years, $54 million overall. One baseball game final. That was the Brewers outlasting the Reds 5-4-10. That's game 1 of 2. And the Royals lost Vinny Pasquantino for the rest of the regular season with a broken thumb. I'm Marco Belletti.
855-212-4227. That's the number to get in touch with us, the Infinity Sports Network. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I would like to welcome, because I know we still have listeners throughout the years that live in Boise. And I know this will not be happening until Tuesday, but I'll announce it here and then we will officially welcome them coming up on Tuesday. But we are now going to be airing back in Boise as one of our great affiliates. The great KTIK The Ticket. You can hear me there for 2 hours from 1 to 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So make sure you check that out if you are listening to us on Sirius right now or watching us on YouTube. You can check out your local station in Boise. That's KTIK The Ticket, and you can hear me each and every day right before Prater and the ball game. We also have some announcements coming up next week as I have my football schedule. So I'll tell you what I'll be doing during football season as well. But we'll save that until next week. You never want to drop news going into Labor Day weekend. It kind of feels like a news dump if you do that. When I make news, we're not dumping that news. Could be a day where I need to make a news dump, though, but not right now. It's time to ask the pros. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. We have Jim in New Jersey who says, Zach, what are you most excited about this weekend in college football? What's the biggest storyline? You can submit a question by tweeting at INFSportsEd or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think it's Dabo Sweeney. That, to me, is the biggest question this weekend. Dabo two-time national champion, has done more than you could have ever imagined with the success that he's had at Clemson. But now he's stubborn. Now they're still good, but they're stuck on being good, and they're not close to being great. Now you go up against the creme de la creme team in college football. That is Georgia, and you are an 11.5-point underdog. I want to see what Clemson has this week, and I think that's the storyline that most intrigues me. What is Clemson when they go up against the best of the best? All righty. Manny Rodriguez has some questions for me. I will give him some answers. We call this segment Onside Offside. We do it every Monday and Friday right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And we get to it right now.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, what we got cooking?
Well, I don't know if you've heard, Zach, but the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk, they finally reached an agreement, signing a 4-year, $120 million extension with $76 million guaranteed, making Aiyuk the 5th highest paid receiver in the NFL. So onside or offside, Brandon Aiyuk is a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I go on sides. I think there is a healthy debate about it. But if you ask me, do you think Brandon Aiyuk is a number 1 caliber wide receiver in this league? I think so. And you don't sign guys based off what they do in the past. Good teams don't do this. Sign based on what they do in the future. And he's 26 years old. He just put up a 1,300-yard season. There's no doubt about it. He's a big-time playmaker. There's a lot of great wide receivers in the league, but I think Brandon Aiyuk is a top 10 wide receiver, so I will go on sides.
Well, now that Brandon Aiyuk got paid, Zach, the next star wideout in line for a deal is Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase. He has missed practice this week, looking for a raise. And this week, Ian Rappaport reported that Chase just wants more than former LSU teammate Justin Jefferson.
My understanding is the two sides are still discussing a potential long-term extension that, if he got it, would make him either tied for the highest paid receiver with Justin Jefferson or beating Justin Jefferson by 1 cent, which I believe is in fact the goal by Jamar Chase.
Onside or offside, the Bengals should give Chase more than Jefferson got earlier this offseason.
I'm going to say onsides because you really have no choice. Like, yes, Justin Jefferson's a better wide receiver than Jamar Chase. But you know Joe Burrow wants his guy Jamar Chase being there. So if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And the Bengals shouldn't mess around here. So the Bengals should give Chase more than Jefferson got earlier in this offseason. I would say onsides. Can I throw an impromptu onside offside question to you here?
Go ahead.
I want you to answer it.
Oh.
Gigi is in the chat.
Okay.
And Gigi says, ooh, Gelb looks different in this light. So I said, how so? And Gigi said, just my first time tuning in since whatever happened with the lighting in that place. It's warmer. You've got a glow about you, big guy. Onside or offside? I have a glow about me. New look, Zach.
Offside.
Man.
I joke. I kid. I just wanted to. I just wanted to bring your spirits down.
I will say this: you have a glow about you now.
Me
has nothing to do with the lighting. You just finally got rid of that mustache.
All right. Well, yeah, I did get rid of the mustache. I did get a haircut. I got my eyebrows done recently as well. So I feel great.
You get your eyebrows done?
Yeah, I get them waxed.
Really?
Yeah, on the Upper East Side.
I've been accused of getting my eyebrows waxed and threaded.
I've done both.
Okay.
I've indulged in both.
I would admit it if I did. I just don't. I just have good eyebrows.
Hey, you know what? Some of us aren't blessed with the eyebrows like yourself. What were we talking about, by the way? Oh, yeah, the lighting. No, you look great. I think it's the tan that you got earlier in the summer.
Yeah. Or the fact that I lost a lot of weight, too.
That, too.
I was once a fat slob.
You said it, not me.
All righty. We can continue. No, I don't even think you know really. You know Big Zach. You don't know Fat Zach.
Oh, there was levels to it.
Oh, like about 90 pounds more, Zach.
God bless. Well, after getting fired by the Commanders, Zach, this offseason, Ron Rivera, he's landed a new gig, signing on as an analyst for the NFL Network. Rivera started his career strong, going 64-47-1 with an NFC title in his first 7 seasons. but he just went 38-56-1 in his final 6 seasons between Washington and Carolina. And so onside, offside, Ron Rivera should get another head coaching opportunity.
Yeah, that's an offside, and that's an easy offside. I love Ron Rivera. He's a true gentleman. He's a first-class act. He was a good coach. His head coaching days are over, though. And there were times at the podium where towards the end of his tenure with the Commanders, again, it's not easy when you're dealing with Daniel Snyder, where he put his foot in his mouth too many times, that the enemy situation wasn't a good look for him, when he gave more answers to the test there, how he handled the whole Carson Wentz scenario too. So I just think, hey, guys have expiration dates as head coaches. His expiration date has passed. We love him whenever he comes on the show. We love to talk to him. We get it, put him on anytime Ron Rivera wants, but I can't sit there and advocate for him getting another head coaching job.
Another former big-name coach who also got a new media gig is former FSU and Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher. He's joined SiriusXM Radio and will co-host a new show called Off Campus with Fisher's former players in E.J. Manuel and Jacob Hester. Onside or offside, Jimbo Fisher will get another power conference coaching job.
Do you think E.J. Manuel or Jacob Hester used to be a former Zach Gelb radio partner? Which one?
I'm going to go with Jacob Hester.
That would be correct.
Yeah, E.J. Manuel is, I digress.
We hosted a few Heisman Trophy celebrations together. We were with Joe Burrow when he won the Heisman.
Yeah, E.J. Manuel, for whatever reason, didn't make sense in that question.
Jimbo Fisher will get another power conference coaching job. Well, what do we consider a power conference? Just the SEC and the Big Ten, or you put the ACC and the Big 12 in there too? Okay. Samter's shaking his head yes. Can he go coach in the Big 12 or the ACC? I could see so. SEC? No. Big 10? No. So if we're talking ACC or Big 12, I guess then I will say on sides. But it's always funny. Jimbo Fisher, he reminds me a lot. I know he won a national championship, so I'm not talking about directly coaching comparison. Like Dan Mullen, towards the end, made so many excuses. Jimbo Fisher made so many excuses. And I never thought I would enjoy Dan Mullen on radio or on television, but whenever he joins us, he's awesome. And I said some not so nice things about Dan Mullen at the end of his tenure at Florida. I also said some not so nice but true things about Jimbo Fisher at the end of his tenure. So I wonder if Jimbo comes on, if then I'll start to like Jimbo Fisher. Hey, Christian Hackenberg, I used to call him Sackenberg, and now we're friends. We're friends, and he comes on all the time, and he's really good. So,
Penn State guy.
You asked me, though, Jimbo Fisher will get another power conference coach. Yeah, I'll say onsides if it's the ACC or the Big 12. But I'll be curious how that radio show is.
Coach Prime.
We'll see how Eric Spitz is running Sirius over there. If he's doing a fine job or not with Jimbo Fisher. If that's just a name hire, or if he's actually a good radio guy. I'm listening, Spitz. I want to see if he passes the Polk scale. Passion, opinion, knowledge, entertainment. His scale, Spitz scale. We'll see if Jimbo Fisher passes that.
Another one of my bosses, Eric Spitz. Coach Prime in Colorado. They escaped with a win last night, beating FCS powerhouse North Dakota State 31-26 in Boulder. Shador threw for nearly 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Travis Hunter had 7 catches for $132 and 3 touchdowns, including a miracle catch to seal the game late. So onside or offside, despite the win, you are less convinced that Colorado will make a bowl game than you were before the game.
Now, this is confusing wording, and maybe it's just because I'm an idiot. Despite the win, you are less convinced that Colorado will make a bowl game than you were before the game. I didn't think they were going to make a bowl game before the game anyway. So less convinced that Colorado will make a bowl game than you were before. I guess I go offside because I'm at the same. Right? Is that the only way to answer that? I didn't think they were going to make a bowl game before. Afterwards, the defense still a major question mark. They improved with the run defense. The offensive line still stinks, and they're still just Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and like 2 or 3 other players. So, no, I think they're a 5-win team.
It's college football's first full week of action with a couple of big games on the slate. On Saturday, number 1, Georgia takes on number 14, Clemson in Atlanta, with the Bulldogs entering as 11.5-point favorites. Onside or offside, Clemson will cover the 11.5.
My head tells me yes. My gut
show me something, Gelb.
Says no. So, I'm going with my gut and also just rooting against Dabo Swinney. I will be biased here. Clemson will cover the 11.5 point spread. Heck no! Offside.
Offside.
All right, another big matchup this weekend. Pitt's Big Ten newcomer USC against SEC powerhouse LSU in Las Vegas on Sunday night.
Viva Las Vegas!
In 21 seasons, Brian Kelly has won 73% of his games, going 186-69. Nice. While Lincoln Riley has a 74-18 record in 8 years.
What's
good
up
enough
with, by the way,
for an 80 win percentage.
That was like a Pat Boyle line. 69, nice.
We're all in a league with Pat Boyle, so I mean, we must rub
fantasy
off on
league.
him. Yeah.
When's our draft?
Monday.
Monday?
Sunday night.
What time?
Like 7:30.
I have to do a
7
fantasy
o'clock.
draft with you losers on a Sunday night on Labor Day weekend?
I mean, have you paid the Venmo? Onside or
No,
offside?
I haven't yet.
Lincoln Riley will win a national title before Brian Kelly.
I was trying to put your salary on that today. You're going to give me a Venmo after the show. I gave you enough airtime. Can you ask the question here quickly?
Onside or offside, Lincoln Riley will win a national title before Brian Kelly does.
No, offside. I trust Brian Kelly more than I do Lincoln Riley in terms of winning a national championship, and I think it's easier to win a national championship at LSU than it is at USC. Fun show, fun week. We will talk to you on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We will recap all the mayhem from week 1 in college football. And how about this? Get you set for the NFL season. Big thanks to Alec Lewis, Vikings writer for The Athletic, stopping by. Big thanks to Danny Kanell and also Joe Valerio with the sensational first appearance on the Zach Gelb Show. Have a fantastic, fun, but more importantly, safe Labor Day weekend. Moist Mike, thank you. Also like to thank Manny Rodriguez, Marco Belletti, and each and every one of you. Talk Tuesday, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.